Hello, everyone. IMS welcomes you all to Future You, Set Your Career Compass Right with Experts Insight. And I'm Kalyani Majumdar, your host for today's webinar. So today is our special episode. Today is also our 11th episode. And in this webinar, you will find answers to the following questions, such as how does one become an entrepreneur? What are the steps to follow in order to be a success? Does it help if one has experience in sales and marketing in order to become a successful entrepreneur? So, and to answer these questions, we have a speaker with a very diverse background, and he is here to share his journey as an entrepreneur. And he's going to talk about how he combined an MBA with his passion for badminton. So let me tell you a bit about our speaker, Vijay Lance Mascarenhas. He is a professional badminton player, having represented the country in badminton for Thomas Cup, World Championships, and he is a former national badminton champion. He's the current world champion in men's doubles 40 plus and is the founder and CEO of the Badminton Professional. He has completed his MBA from IIM Calcutta and has held senior positions in Reliance Industries and Johnson & Johnson. He's also the former CEO of Prakash Padukone Sports Management. Welcome to Future You webinar, and thank you so much, Vijay Lance Mascarenhas, for being here today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Kalyani, for the good introduction. Thanks.
Yeah. So let's start with your career trajectory, as in from playing badminton to IIM Calcutta. How did that happen? So we'll take part by part this entire your career trajectory.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just run you through, the last maybe 30 years of my life then.
Right.
For that. So of course, during that time, so I was in my 12th. I was good at academics and good at sport. So fortunately, I had that combination. And pretty much when you're good at two things, there is no third thing, right? You just have to focus on, so not like
Right.
typical students. I had to just focus on study and sport. Now, in my 12th standard, there was a call between, say engineering, medical, but I didn't do that. I somehow convinced my parents to, let me do a BSc in mathematics, right? Because normally sports people of my level, at the national level used to do arts or commerce, But since I was from that background, I went ahead with the, BSc maths. Fortunately, in my first year BSc, I was the national champion. So under 18, I was India #1. I got a job in Bharat Petroleum.
Okay.
Then, since I got a job to play, I mean, that's like an ideal thing to do, right? And so that pretty much I continued playing till say about the age of 30. I was a men's singles player, so it takes a toll, and I had injuries, and then a decision I had to take as to what next, and at that stage, the MBA part came in.
Right.
Yeah, so at that stage, I thought one option was to, of course, continue with Bharat Petroleum, working in the public sector has its own nuances. But that stage, I decided an MBA would help me because then I could compete with, other people, otherwise I'm a good sports guy, but I have no knowledge of corporate world, in that sense.
So are you saying that because of your experience with Bharat Petroleum, as in your corporate experience with Bharat Petroleum, it kind of was that one of the triggers, or was it just that you just wanted to kind of you wanted to make a career also in corporate world, and thus you decided, okay, maybe it's time for me to pursue an MBA?
Yeah, so what happened was, as a player, it's a different life, right? There's a lot of training, physical effort, a lot of traveling, domestic, international, so pretty much I consumed, entirely by it. So for me, the next, since I was good at academics, which I had sort of, foregone because of sport. So that stage, the question was, what do I do next? And I always wanted to get back into sport. At that time, I'm talking about 2004, I did my MBA 2004 to 6. I gave that in 2003. So at that time, the sport industry had not opened up so much,
Okay.
So I was already 30, I was married, and it's already, in a sense, for Indian standards, it's a bit late to study at that time. But in my batch, I was the second oldest. So there was still a guy, older than me in my batch. That's all. So at that stage, I realized if I had to study, it was now. I could not, of course, do it much later. I mean, unlike students who might be in the early 20s can take 2 years to work and then study. So I didn't have the luxury at that time. So at that stage, in Bharat Petroleum, of course, was more about sport. I didn't work too much. of course, I had the option of continuing to work, but then I would be competing with people, who have put in about 10, 12 years of experience, in the industry. So I thought the best way out would be to at least get done with my MBA, and of course, MBA theoretically at that time was the best option, of course, clearing CAD, getting into IM was more of a part. But I think, of course, now when I look back, that was the best decision I took, at that time.
Right. So let's talk about then after completing MBA, then you started working in the corporate world. You have had experience in supply chain, and you've also had experience in sales and marketing. So we'll take these separately, as in, how did that happen? How was the experience, and how different it was for you to get into this corporate world? And then, of course, we can also talk about, how was it while you were working in Johnson & Johnson that you decided, like, okay, I want to get into, maybe, I want to start my own company or something like that?
Yeah. So one is, after, as I said, the vision always was to get back into sport, so, but that was not the right time. So see, it was a passion, Now I just had to be, so in 2000, when I graduated the sport industry, badminton had not even opened up, badminton in India truly opened up, I think after 2010, when Saina Nehwal won the Commonwealth gold. And so, but I wanted to be ready, when I take a jump into my own company or into entrepreneurship, so you need to be ready, for it. So I thought the best way out was just to jump into corporate world, and my first placement was in Reliance Industries, in Reliance Petroleum. I got a lateral placement, so that was about supply chain. So MBA, of course, was very good, but there's a lot of theory and case studies. And, so the moment I went into Reliance Industries, I was manager supply chain, and in 1-2 days was all good, and then suddenly, the role was to manage, the transport of say diesel, petrol across from Jamnagar refinery to all the retail outlets. So there was a lot of, suddenly what you had learned in theory, you had to put it sort of, in use. Of course, there were seniors to guide you. So I think that was a good stint in supply chain. So I think that is what, MBA or IIM helped me. It actually 3 or 4 levels, it just sort of, I jumped and I was manager supply chain, and absolute responsibility. It was very critical, because you're ordering like, huge containers of diesel and petrol, and you can't go wrong. There's a lead time, you have to do it through the coast. So that was a fantastic experience. Then I moved on to Johnson & Johnson Medical in sales and marketing. Marketing for 1 year. Sales, was a very, very good stint, and especially if you want to start your own company, want to be an entrepreneur, I think sales teaches you everything, because fortunately, sales is very much like sport. You have targets, goals, but you still have a method to achieve it. So in that sense, I enjoyed the sales part of it. And you have to work on the ground, right? The advantage of sales is you can't sit in an office, right? You are working with the sales guys. You're understanding their challenges. So you really know what the business is about. So I think sales, in my opinion, everyone should have one stint in sales at some point in their career.
Okay.
But whatever happens, at the end of the day, the revenue comes into the organization with the sale of a product or a service, right? So I think it all leads to that. So in that sense, both these, the companies and big companies, really help me sharpen my my knowledge, my skills, for the corporate world, I would say. Yeah.
Correct. So are you saying that for someone to be a success in as an entrepreneur, or having basically, or becoming a CEO, do you think having sales and marketing background is something that would really help?
Well, I think so. So one is, of course, we did our MBAs from IIMs and then into positions. So you will have entrepreneurs who have also not gone through this, but end of the day, a sales and marketing would surely help in the kind of career which I have had. So a sports person, then so directly I didn't get into sport. I went into hardcore corporate world. I sharpened myself there. So I think the sales marketing. See, today as an entrepreneur, whoever it is for. First of all, you have to get convinced of an idea yourself. Then you are convincing an investor, right? You're selling your idea to an investor.
Correct.
Then you're selling your idea to the team, your employees, your staff. So you are basically convincing everyone of your idea and then buying them into your vision of your organization. So I think all of these, and end of the day, sales can't be, taught in a classroom or a textbook.
Right.
It is something very practical what you learn, on. But having said that, for me especially, the stint in MBA and the corporate world has really helped me to become an entrepreneur myself.
How does one become an entrepreneur? As in, what are the steps to follow in order to be a success? As in, where does one start? As in, you started in a different trajectory. You had a very different trajectory. But what if someone is not into sports? Maybe someone has another kind of hobbies. How does one? Is there like one set of steps that at least like one basic set of steps that one can follow in order to find success as an entrepreneur?
Well, see, firstly, what you said is right. So one has to firstly differentiate a hobby and a passion.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
It's, I think, something for recreational.
Okay.
You just do it. So for example, like you might like watching football or cricket on TV. Now
Right.
that doesn't mean you build a profession out of it. Unless you're very, very passionate about it. So in my case, I was a player. Now that didn't mean that I could run an organization.
Correct.
Of course, there were so many other things which I had to learn. Playing is just one small part of it. There's so much more to managing and running an organization. Entrepreneurship, firstly, is I frankly don't know what the definition of the textbook definition. But it is a state of mind. So you don't have to, I think, run your own business to be an entrepreneur. Like you could very well work in your own company and also be an entrepreneur. So because the way you work. So in my case, the stints which I had in Reliance, in Johnson & Johnson, I mean, it was never a 9 to 6 job for me, or this is my role, only I'm going to do so much stuff. So much effort in it. I learned so much, which is why I also progressed faster. In fact, when I was the CEO in Padukone Sports, so I was pretty much the first employee, although I was the CEO, I was an employee. And I think why we did phenomenally well for a sport organization was because I thought I ran it like it was my own company. It was always a privilege to work for Mr. Prakash Padukone. So I think if you have that mindset that you just go all out and work and learn, that is the first step. Now, of course, you have to put a business plan around it. So somebody who has a passion, So like I gave you in my case, 2000 I graduated from IIM Cal, but I could not build a business model around it because badminton infrastructure in the country had not developed then. It happened in 2013, 14, where a lot of infrastructure came up. So which is why coaching was required, So there has to be a business plan around it, right? You can have an idea, you can be passionate, but if there is no business plan around it, then of course you might have to wait. Also, the opportunity has to present itself, right? It's not that throughout there is an opportunity. Opportunities come, like for example now COVID, so there is an online opportunity.
Correct. Yeah.
It was not there earlier, right? So such there are trends which keep happening, which one has to be aware of. So these things are important. Apart from that, you have skills of an entrepreneur. You will have to deal with a lot of ambiguity. It's going to be structured, day. You have to have a vision of growing a company. At the same time, you will have to work on the ground, because you're putting the systems and processes in place. So you will have to have that kind of a mindset, and whatever experiences, be it MBA, corporate world, all of that helps you in becoming. See, when you're an entrepreneur, then you cannot, in a sense, make a mistake, because financial implications, there are so many other implications. But all that you learned in your MBA, academics, corporate world, I think sharpens you to become an entrepreneur, I would think.
Okay. So can you divide, can you tell us like some of the core hard skills and core soft skills that one should have to be an entrepreneur? Or even basically, getting into a business venture or something like that. Yeah. Like basically hard skills and soft skills. Maybe like two of hard skills and two soft skills that one needs.
So see, one is hard skills is something like I would say a domain expertise, right? Now, especially when you're an entrepreneur or CEO, you will have to have a fair understanding of many functions, right? You will need to know finance. You will need to understand a P&L, a balance sheet. Because initially you can't have multiple people unless you've got a lot of investment and you can hire people. But in our case, you need to understand a lot of these functions yourself. HR, marketing, sales, operations, inventory management. So all of those things are very critical. So I would say domain expertise in whatever you are doing. And then there are ancillary support functions, right? Whatever your product, you will use finance, you need sales, marketing, that.
Correct.
In terms of soft skills, see, it's very important, especially in any business venture, especially more in entrepreneurship, you have to be a keen listener. You have to understand what the customer wants. You might have an idea, but does the customer want it? That's one. Second thing is you have to keep listening to your employees on the ground. So in my case, it is the coaches. Coaches on the ground. They have a lot of challenges. So I can have a lot of ideas and plans, but eventually they are going to implement it. So I need to understand people. And finally, it is people who drive businesses, right? So you trust people, you train, you empower people, and those people go and get you the business. So that way, soft skills are, I think, very, very important, which is what you learn in sales, how to deal with people, how to be, it's rather than being firm with people, you should motivate people, so that the work happens, Of course, at times you need to be firm. So I think it's a combination of all of these hard and soft skills which are required.
Right. We have a question. So as I'm also a badminton player and have taken break to build my career in management. So can you please share how simultaneously you've coped up with both? How did you cope up with the whole situation? Like how did you, basically your transition from badminton player to become a management professional? That's his question.
Yeah. So one is, So one is as a player. When I was a player, see, it's very difficult to do anything else, because I was playing for the country, and I was ranked in the top in the country, and a lot of travel. So at that time, and it makes sense to focus fully on sport. It's a very intense 8-9 hours of physical work, travel, all that. But what I did was, towards the end of my career, which is when I was 27, 28, I realized that I might want to study MBA or try for an IIM. So at that time, I started doing a lot of reading up stuff, and so basically which helped later in my RC and tab and all that. So I was doing a lot of that stuff parallelly. So when I was a player, but I didn't venture into like doing something else along with it. But of course, the 1 year before giving CAT, almost not even a year, maybe about 8 months. I think I started preparation sometime in Feb, March, and was sometime in December first week. So those 6 to 8 months, I gave it a very good shot, to really clear CAT and all that. Of course, after that, I still play. I'm currently also national and a world champion in above 40. But the priority now is work, right? The priority is work. The sport today I play because I'm in that industry,
Correct.
Because I'm in coaching. But I think it is when you have a passion, when there are multiple things to do, it is about a lot of sacrifice, a lot of planning, a lot of time management, and it can be surely done. Like of course, you have to work, go to a corporate job, but parallelly you can have your hobbies and passions.
So basically, one has to discipline oneself in such a manner that, you don't lose focus while you are in that. So, you have to get back to your passion sometime or the other.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So, how to get people join you? This is a question. How to get people to join you in your business? I want to open a small food stall and brand it to become a big one. Okay, would like to open basically a food stall, but I don't have any. I'm planning to start it in Jan, and I would like to know, how do you get customers? How do you even start? Where basically he's a last year student in BTech. He's a BTech student, so he would like to get into food industry, as in a food business. And how do you, so what is basically, how do you get customers? Where do you start? That's his question basically. So anything basically, how do you start?
Any business of this sort. So particularly a food stall, I'm not the expert, but as I said, some general business fundamentals you can, apply to it. One is, I think, in this kind of a business, the location is important. Location is important. The kind of food, which city are in, what weather. So again, as I said, this is the domain expertise, right? If
Okay,
you are
also,
opening a food stall, then you need.
yeah, he's also asking, also, how do you get people to work for you? Where do you get all the human resource? As in, I think, what he is trying to ask is like, if you're starting off on something of your own venture, where do you, where, how do you plan it out that you also have man force, you also have customers and everything? Isn't, where do you start? That's his question, actually. Yeah.
Okay. No, so one is, in India there is no dearth of people, right? You will always get people, right? So I mean, for whatever your role or what your requirement is, there will be somebody or the other who will at that stage be with you. Now, see again in terms of customers, it is a business plan, which has to be incorporated, right? I mean,
Right.
if you understand your business, your location is strong, your product is strong, especially if you're talking particularly about a food stall, I mean, I'm assuming there will be a ready set of customers, and then you will have to, open up to, I mean, come up with more ideas to get more customers.
Right.
So it is a function of having a strong business idea
Hmm.
and having the right people, which happens. I mean, particularly now, I do not know in this case, but that's broadly how a business would start. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question where I'm 17. Can I be a badminton player after finishing my paramedics of 2 years?
Sorry, your voice was breaking. What was it
Yeah,
again?
he's 17. The speaker, the attendee. The attendee is 17 years old. He's asking if he can be a badminton player after finishing his paramedics of 2 years. Is it too late? I mean, can he still be a badminton player at 17?
So one is at 17, it is not easy. I mean, nothing is impossible because you already have people at the age of 17 who would have put a good 10 years into badminton.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in case you've not been playing badminton at all, then it's not going to be easy. It is surely going to be tough because you're competing with somebody who's worked for maybe 10 years into 8 hours per day. So, but having said that, there have been a lot of late bloomers in sport also. It is possible. The best way to do it is, you should play and then take part in a tournament. That's what I tell a lot of players, because you will really understand what competition is and whether you are willing to really push yourself to reach that level of competition. Sometimes it's good to know that you can't do it. Sometimes it's also good to know that I'll give 1 year to try doing it. So it all depends on what level you are currently and how much are you willing to put in. But at the age of 17, if you've not played at all, it's not going to be easy, sure.
Someone was asking how can we combine MBA with engineering to be successful, like how you did with MBA and badminton? Is there a possibility? That's a very interesting question.
I think engineers doing MBA, I think there are enough and more. I think more
That's
90% of
yes.
like that. So I'm sure there are a lot of opportunities. Like my batchmates, I would think 90% of my batch were
Engineers.
it's a common combination. Engineers getting into MBA
Yeah.
and then getting into corporate world. Yeah.
So, like how you turned your you combined MBA with badminton. What if it's some other sports? For example, there's a student. He has played professional football all his life. So how he wants to know how do you make a career in the corporate world of the football clubs?
Yeah. So it's pretty similar to say what I did in badminton.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So see quickly, what are the job or what are the industries in sport? So as a football, take an example. One is you run a coaching academy, like exactly like what I am doing, right? With my business partner Anup Sridhar. So one is you run coaching academies, and then we spread coaching academies across the country. So that is one vertical. Second vertical is what he said, a football club. So in badminton also there is a badminton league.
Okay.
So you will need to be involved in some team. Like football also has ISL and all of that.
Correct.
So you will need to be involved in some level of football and then slowly start making your own business plan if you want to run your own organization. So today actually football is doing very well. I mean, you don't have say many top players doing well internationally from India, but as a grassroots sport, football is very popular. So there are a lot of academies across the country. In Bangalore, you have BFC and a lot of academy is doing well. So I'm sure in football there are a lot of opportunities where my suggestion is you need to just start into the, in football, just join an academy or join an industry which is into football, and then slowly you can build up on your skills and then start something on your own. If you're not very confident to start it immediately.
So can you tell us a little bit about what is a typical day for you as an entrepreneur? Like a typical day.
Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, what happens is, one is that there is a vision for the organization, and I'm just 1 year old. My organization is just a year old. So when you start off, there is always a constraint on the resources, right? I mean, practically we end up doing the work of even 2-3 people. I coach, I manage the finances, I also do operations. So many things. So one is there is a macro element to it, which is your vision. What do you want to achieve in this month, in the next week? And then immediately there is a micro. What do I want to do today, right? So I normally balance it between, like, in this month I need to do these 3 things, but today this is what I need to do, right? And then you just, and also since it's very critical what the team does. The speed is important in the initial stage of any organization. So I have a quick review with my team in the morning on what needs to be done for the day.
Correct.
And then after that we just all get into execution. So no long meetings, and I mean, see, there are a lot of advantages of corporate world. There are some learnings from corporate world, in the sense that some things are sometimes of no use, long meetings and emails, and so I am absolutely not for it. So I just do what is required, a quick discussion, quick planning, and then we all get into execution. That is how I normally plan my day.
Okay. There's a question. So I started the sport when I turned 16. I'm currently getting trained in your academy. I want to pursue MBA parallelly. He has kept his name. He's an anonymous attendee. Any tips to manage with both MBA and?
One is playing sport at a very high level is very, very daunting. I mean, it's not easy. So you cannot do. So even in my case, when I was playing at the highest level, I was not doing anything else. I was only playing. I attempted CAT when I was 30, right? So I had finished my playing career. So you cannot train 8-9 hours a day, so much of physical effort. I'm talking of a very high level. See, if it is a recreational level where you want to play 1-2 hours a day just for health, fitness, I'm sure you can parallelly do your MBA. But if and especially, see, MBA can be done at 30, right? But sport can't be done at 30.
Correct.
So if at all you are you really want to make it well in sport, then you should be totally focused on sport. Not if you're talking of a national, international level. If it is anything lower, then there is a scope of at least doing something parallelly.
I think that your answer for that kind of connects you with this question. I'm a state level tennis player. Do you think IIM really gives me a better opportunity to continue my passion in tennis, or will it put a stop to my game? I want to try professional tennis. So yeah.
So if your aim is to continue being a player, then of course an MBA or IIM doesn't help, right?
Correct.
Because you should be only playing and not doing anything.
Then what? Maybe what a lot of attendees are also wondering, like, what once your tennis career ends or your football career ends, then what do you do? Like, so if you have an MBA also, it's almost like a sort of like a fallback plan or something.
Yeah, but
what do you do then?
Kalyani, it's not so easy, So,
Correct.
Answer to that is do what I have done, right? Play till and then do an MBA. Now that's not easy. Giving CAT and clearing is, and that too in IIM Cal, 99% would need. So that's the tougher part, But I don't think you can play at a very, very high level and also parallelly do an MBA. I mean, unless you do a correspondence or something like that. So I think if you are at a very high level of sport in terms of playing, see, if you want to run a company in sport, of course you should do your MBA, and that helps you,
Yeah.
But playing, if you're a hardcore player, you want to do it well, you should get it done with, See, the beauty about MBA is like when I can give it at 30, you can surely give it at 25. Give it your best till maybe 3-4 years, try in seniors, and then if you can't, you can always go into studies, if you're at that level of seriousness. But having said that, I think a lot of players, I mean, in my opinion, play at a college level, university level, maybe state level also, but playing national, international is a different cup of tea, right? It's like 10 hours of training per day, and you literally can't stand after a session. So leave alone opening a book and studying and all that. If you're playing at that level, but I think once you're done with that, maybe at 22, 23, you realize that okay, maybe sport is not my cup of tea, or I can't achieve more than what I've already done. Then maybe you can always branch into. And I think MBA, that's the beauty, right? There's no age. You can even give it at.
So how did you do that? As in, how did you balance your time? How did you manage your time between practice? You were still practicing, right? While you were pursuing your IIM management.
No, I was not. So I was not. So
okay, you were not practicing at all.
No, so see, at least in badminton, and especially for singles player, your career is still about 30, 31, because it's a very demanding, sport physically. So in my case, it was very clear till I was 27, 28, it was only sport, there was nothing else.
Okay.
But since I was academically inclined, so I used to keep reading up a lot of stuff, I remember, the Hindu editorials, very, very hard English, but that used to help in the RC. My vocab was strong because of a lot of reading which I had done. So I was not studying for CAT per se, but I was just, getting stronger at the vocab, and also that is something which you can do. Now you play a hard session, then you come back and read something. But once I decided to give study for CAT, even that year actually I was like representing Karnataka, so it was not, I was not playing. Then I just said, there's nothing left. You have to study and you have to, play sport. There's nothing else to do. And of course, once I got into IIM, I was not into professional sport as a player. Then so I was already 30 by then. So I was playing.
Okay.
But I understand where these questions are coming from.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do too many things, and rather one should not do it. At a time one should focus, I believe, on one thing. So if your entire energy is say 90-95% on sport, as a player, you can of course read up and brush up a lot of things. Those things you can do, but putting your feet in two things, and that too as demanding as like an IIM, if you're trying high level sport, I mean that's difficult.
Okay. So I played badminton at the age of 14. I was good at that time, and after that I was not playing. Now I'm 20. Can I continue with the same, or is it too late to start again?
Again, as I said, very difficult, not easy, but not impossible. Because at 20, you are competing with people who have already, put in 10 to 12 years of a lot of hard work. So it's not going to be easy to do it. But if at all somebody wants to do it, then you should just try. Give it 6 months. Enroll into an academy, try hard, and just see where you stand when you play tournaments. But very difficult, very difficult. Not easy at the age of 20 to get back into competitive sport. Yeah.
Okay. So you have mentioned in your profile, like, you have been a CEO for Prakash Padukan Sports Management for 4 years, and you were responsible for the inception of 30 plus venues across the country and abroad. So did your MBA help you in this role? If yes, then how exactly it helped?
See, one is, so one is an MBA, it is, I think, when you talk of education, MBA is so it is closest it comes to actually what you're going to do in corporate world, right? So maybe what you did in your 12th or your engineering or, arts, commerce, science is way different from what you're doing in your job. But MBA, I think, is the closest possible, because if you're getting into business administration, you will be into either finance, HR, marketing. So in that sense, MBA is I would divide MBA into two parts. One is the content, right? The technical part. You're learning finance, you're doing case studies, a lot of the academic part, I would say. There is one more part of MBA which sharpens you is, there are, you're competing with, very highly, set of intelligent people, right? People who are, IIT toppers, they've even got 99 percentile, clear GPI. So what remains is the cream, that's what it is. So competing with them, then there are a lot of deadlines. There is a lot of, so there are a lot of these soft skills. The first year, it's too much of studies, right? I mean, at least for me, at 30, it was like the finance and this and that, hardly you can sleep 2-3 hours a day, practically for entire 2 years, So in that sense, it toughens you up for the corporate world. And whatever you do in corporate world is basically the implementation of the theory that you learned in MBA, right? So in that sense, it does help surely. Now, I think the way to look at it is just by doing an MBA, are you going to become a CEO? Definitely not.
Okay.
So apply all the learnings of the MBA to your corporate life, and then of course when you become a CEO, you will need to have knowledge on various functions, right? Finance, HR, marketing. So you might not be an expert in finance, but you should be able to talk to an expert in finance and take a decision. That is what CEOs do, right? So because CEOs normally have a holistic picture of the business. Like individual functions, HR will know HR, marketing will know marketing, CEO knows everything. So which is why I think surely MBA was the start, which gave me a lot of theoretical knowledge, which I applied in my the corporate world later, and eventually it helped me to become a good CEO.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions about, they're from various, like a lot of people have got passion in different sports and different things and all, and they would like, finally, at the end of the day, they would like to become entrepreneurs or like basically, start business venture. So can you just tell, like, because finally at the end of the day, you as a badminton, you made your passion in badminton as a career, but how about giving our attendees like something like a business model out of like what are the steps, where should one start, how to go about it, as in a business model, as in to start any business venture for that matter, whether it's badminton, football, or any other passion the person has, but what exactly should be the business model one should follow?
Yeah, so one is see, I get the point, I mean, and these questions come to me a lot, I mean, I think last 5-7 years, I think every month at least I have 20-30 students calling me up. I don't know how they get my number or email, but I get a lot of calls because this combination is not easy. A lot of people want to do, and not too many people have done it in the past. Leaving a lucrative corporate job and then doing your passion. So see, just to keep it simple, one is, as I said, what is a passion and a hobby? That has to be very clear. Passion is something which consumes you, right? You are 24 hours into it. You are even talking to your family, but you're thinking also. So that is passion, right?
Yeah.
So one has to be clear, if it is just a hobby and sports looks good on TV, but it is hard work, right? It is a business. You need customers. There is cash flow planning, all of those things, right? So in that sense, people should be very clear. Sport, what it looks like on TV and what you actually have to do. It is like any like a FMCG industry or like a IT industry. There are nuances of doing business in sport. So firstly, one has to be clear about that. That it is my passion and I want to. So for example, if like somebody said, they were into football, and they want to make suppose they want to get back into football. And I'm not talking of technical part as in becoming a coach. Then you don't need an MBA, right? You should just continue because that is very technical. How do you play badminton or play football? But if you want to be in the administration or the business of the sport, say the business of football or badminton, then as I said, there has to be an opportunity and a business plan, right? Now, at least for football today, I can say there are enough and more opportunities. Now, I'm not sure if there is, say, for example, hockey. It's a national sport, but maybe there is no strong business plan today for it. I'm not sure. I'm just giving an example. So say for football, for example, then you have to build a business plan around it. Now, of course, the question is how to build, right? I understand that it's not easy. But as I said, then what do you want to do in football? Do you want to run an academy? Do you want to get into the retail side of football, which means equipment sales, apparel sales? Do you want to get into conducting leagues? Do you want to get into conducting tournaments? So there are under a particular sport, there are 3-4 industries which you can. Do you want to get into managing an infrastructure? Like then you will have infrastructure, whether it's football, whether it's swimming, whether it's badminton. So it depends on that. So it makes sense to start working in one of these, whichever lines you want to, and eventually you will have to form a plan around it. So in my case, I'll give you an example. I was a player, of course. I did all my corporate world. Then I got into, Accelerate indoor sports arena. So that was multi-sport. It was not badminton. My passion was badminton, but I was also doing football. I was also doing cricket. I was also doing swimming. But did that because it helped me understand a lot of things, right? So, and that eventually led me to the CEO of Padukone Sports, where I was the first employee. There was there was a lot of infrastructure, but there was no structured coaching, and that to pan India. See, a coach can manage one venue, two venues, but beyond that, you need managerial skill, right? So, fortunately, I have that combination. So, to expand to 30, 40 centers, at least in badminton, we were the first academy to do it. And even in other sports, it's not easy to maintain quality of coaching across, So that is something which I learned in that role, And then when I started my own company, all of that I encapsulated, and then you have to put financial numbers to it, right? Which is
right. Yes, yeah.
I have 5 venues under me. For 5 venues, I need 20 coaches, 20,000 rupees, So I need, for that break even, I need 70 customers,
Right.
The 90th customer, I will make 10% profit, So these are all things which MBA will help you, right? I mean, doing all of
correct.
calculations and all. That is what actually MBA teaches you in theory, and you apply it in practice. You actually do
Yeah,
this.
so I wanted to actually ask you about, because in entrepreneurship, finance is a big thing. Other than promotions, branding, and all, finance is a big thing. So how did you handle it? How did you plan it out?
No, so in our case, especially what I did was, we didn't take investment, right? I mean, not that we wouldn't have got. So it's actually the tougher part, because then you only have revenue, right? You are only your cost has to be lower than your revenue. It's simple. So in our case, what we did was, suppose we start one academy. Fortunately in my case, I am the coach, I am the player, I am the CEO. I am practically everything. So I don't need 5 people, right? I can do the work of 5 people. Now, these skill sets are not easy for normally other people to do. So in that sense, I have that advantage where I could lower down my cost by doing multiple roles. So that way I managed the finance, but it was simple. It was a very organic growth. Like you get one infrastructure, then you build it, then you move to the second, then you move to the third. But once you know how to run 30 centers, that's when you can get investment and then aim for maybe 300 centers.
Right.
That is the plan. So I don't think you should get into anything without knowing how to do it. So I think I've learned how to run 30, 40 centers, across the country and abroad. Now, of course, with investment, I can scale it up faster in that way.
Okay. There's a question. I would like to pursue sports management course since I'm a football player. I would like to contribute something to Indian football venture and enhancing the vision. In enhancing the vision. So what's the best institute in India to pursue sports management or an MBA in sports management?
No, so see, one is there are some courses, of course, now which deal directly into sports management.
Right.
I mean, I know of institutes. I mean, it's just a Google. If you do, you'll get enough and more. There are institutes in Mumbai, there are some in Bangalore. These are dedicated to sports management, right? Now, if you see globally, Loughborough is of course one of the best in UK. There are some very good ones in Australia, even in Switzerland. So good sports management institutes. Now, in my case, I wanted to get into sports management, but I took the call of doing a hardcore MBA, because I felt that, especially if you can do it from an IIM, that gives you a more perspective. So I think the attempt always should be to try from the very higher MBAs if you can. Of course, sports management is also good, and there are a lot of institutes, today which are only into sports management. So the call is whether to do a full-fledged MBA or to do a sports management. That is, I think, dependent. The candidate can decide on that, but both are actually good for the future.
So, I mean, you're saying maybe even if the person is not pursuing, say, a sports management, but is pursuing an IIM, an MBA, general management, or something like that, that's fine too, as long as you have an understanding of the domain.
Yeah. I see. I mean, that's precisely what I have done, right? I have done a hardcore MBA, and then I have moved into sport. So I think at least if you do it from a premier IIM, then it's the rigor is very high. The academic content you are competing with them. So I would think if you can get into a premier institute is always good, because it opens up many more opportunities both in terms of learning also. But however, today I have a lot of, people who come for interviews, who just do a sports management. So, which is also fine, but I think a pure MBA will open up maybe more options.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you are very clear, you only want to do sports management, then of course you can get into sports management. Like for example, if I had done sports management,
okay, yeah.
I would not have got into Reliance or Johnson & Johnson.
Right, correct.
So I did the MBA, went there, and then I came. So this is the path I chose.
So it gave you a more holistic understanding.
Yeah, correct.
So can you talk about, tell us about one challenging situation that you faced as a CEO and as a founder, director of your company, Badminton Professional, or as a challenging situation as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I would say not particularly one challenge. There are so many challenges, which happen. So one thing is, the biggest challenge I faced was, coaching earlier was meant to be, badminton coaching. It is like one center, two centers, and it was almost like we have to coach for only for the top players. So see, badminton is a very, very good sport for fitness, for health. So I literally I changed the concept to badminton for everyone. So even an adult. So in fact, I maybe I was one of the first guys to start adult badminton coaching. Other guys 30 years, 40 years, they don't want to become champions, but they want to be healthier. They want to play better. So next day when they play against a friend, they want to play better, right? They might not win a tournament. So for me to expand into like all India, you need to have, so it's a typical pyramid, at the lower end is the beginner level, 6-year-old who just play for recreation. You need them, right? You need them to manage an organization. You can't just manage with top 10 players. So you need the pyramid, the beginners, and then slowly the excellence is at the top. So when I started, it was almost like badminton coaching, commercial. But see, when a customer is willing to pay you a fee, which means he finds value in it, right? So today, actually, badminton is played by everyone. It is not just played by a few people who want to compete. It is played by I think even a 60-year-old, played by women, housewives, everyone. So and which is what is good for badminton, because that is why there are so many jobs today in badminton, right?
Okay.
You have to understand, when more and more people play, that is when jobs get created, right? More people playing means more people buying equipment. So the entire industry, if you just have 100 people playing, top players, the industry doesn't grow with that, right? The industry grows because you have millions of people playing a sport. So I think that was a big challenge initially, to get people to just come to play, just for fitness. Otherwise, earlier fitness was, jogging or going to a gym. Today, people play badminton for fitness. So it was almost like a thought process change, which took time. But today, everybody is playing badminton for fitness. So that was one challenge which we overcome with a structured method of training. So the customers found value in it, I would say.
With COVID-19 right now and this unprecedented situation that we are all witnessing, and especially with our MBA aspirants and our attendees who are young and just starting off in their career and planning. Do you have any particular suggestions to give them, if in case they are planning to pursue an MBA, or for that matter even after MBA, what path, if they're planning to get into some business venture or as an entrepreneur? Do you have any suggestions for them, as in like maybe things that they can do now so that their profile and they're ready, their job ready for future once this entire thing is over?
Yeah.
Something that they can do now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Firstly, COVID is a reality, right? I mean, first things, I think all of us should come out of this healthy, and so that is more important rather than anything, but which everyone knows. That's so that is I think the first important thing which all of us should do. I'm assuming all the students educated are doing that. See, for me, this is absolutely my point of view, and it could differ from someone else. That, see, education is an investment. Okay, this is the reason why I did. See, if you see my profile, I didn't need to do my MBA, right? I mean, I was well placed in life. I had a job. I could have continued. But education is something which will always remain with you, right? So it is better to, if you have that desire to study, you should do it. My view is as soon as you can, right? So maybe take a 1-2 year break, you work, that is fine. But you can't wait till 35, 40 and get into education. So I personally feel this is the right time to upskill yourself. Now I understand there are some situations where money is required and it's very tight, and all of those. There will be particular situations, but where a person has to work because of the money and the studies might get postponed. In those cases, it's fine. But otherwise, I think it's the best time because see, COVID one day is going to stop, right? It might take 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. It cannot go on for. My assumption is more than 2 years, right?
Correct. Yeah.
In these 2 years, if somebody can even study and when they come out, and I think the first job is not, it is like all of us know. The first job is just an entry. After that, it is what you do in that job, right? Okay, the IIM tag will always remain, but I'm not going to get my future jobs because I've done an MBA, 20 years back. It is what have you done in your last role? What are the achievements in your last role? So it is not that I think, like even earlier, when the economy was down, the placements were bad, I think a 40-year career, 40-year corporate career, 1 or 2 years is just a blip, right? It's not like if you don't get placed well today or so my suggestion is if you have this thing of studying, you should always study and sooner than later, So I mean, I'm assuming a lot of the people are studying for CAT and
yes, yeah.
So I think it's the best thing because by the time 2 years, if you can do it, and I'm sure by the time you come out, everything would be normal, So my suggestion.
So does IIM allow us to participate in tournaments, nationals, other than ones conducted by IIM? Will there be any effect on the attendance?
Well, surely there'll be an effect on the attendance and on your grades. It's not easy. There is a minimum CGPA, right? Just to give a perspective, in my first year when I was in IIM, in the first term we had 8 guys who didn't clear the first term. So it's not so easy. It's not like you just get
right.
Of course, a lot of people who are very much into academics. Also, I think I just want to tell a lot of people that playing professional sport is not easy. I mean, again, I'm saying the same thing. You put 7, 8. I mean, IIM itself is so daunting. Then you also want to play sport at a high level. It's not possible, And see, for me, always the sport was preferable, but I always wanted to study. So IIM will let you do what you want as long as you have attendance, as long as you can get your CGPA, as long as you can get grades. But it's not easy because those 2 years, you will you'll be in some group discussion. There'll be some, something else. So there is constantly something or the other which you will. So for example, when I was there, we fortunately had a court inside. Just for recreation, I would play in the evening. I never ventured into. I mean, although I'm sure I would have done well even at a competitive level then, but I didn't at that point of time do it.
What are the kind of skills that one should have in order to be successful CEOs?
Successful CEO, is it?
Yeah.
So one is of course again domain knowledge. That is the past. You need to know badminton not just in playing. You need to understand the entire part, right? One is you need to as a CEO you need to have the foresight, right? You need to have a vision which I think you're a CEO because you have a vision which others do not have, right?
Correct.
You sort of see in the future. So simple thing like when COVID happened, coaching, especially sport coaching, online is never heard of, right? And it is actually, to be frank, it is not the right thing. But we have about 2,000 students, and April, May is a summer camp time. Normally the children are absolutely sweating it out or whatever. So we actually, me and my partner, so Anup Sridhar, my business partner, is an Olympian, an Arjun awardee. So we actually came up with an online program for badminton coaching. Now you cannot do badminton coaching at a higher level online, but you can do it for the younger students, so 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds. So we sensed that in the month of March when the lockdown started, so which is why the last 3-4 months, we were able to do justice to online coaching, whatever best we could. We could pay some of our coaches' salaries, So I would think a lot of academies didn't do that, Some of the prominent ones did. but at least we sense that, we sense that, look, this is going to stay for the next, whatever, 6-8 months. So we quickly moved into an online, whereas see online, like a talk like this or speaking is possible.
Yes.
Badminton coaching is not so easy, fitness is still possible. So within the constraint, so this is just an example of you have to foresee the trends, and so I think one is strong expertise, one is looking into the future. Main thing is working with people, because any organization is going to grow because of the people. How long, how much can you work, right? Correct. So you should have a very good team which actually helps you in doing that. Sorry. So, so I think that is what is important. So one is domain expertise, looking into the future, and having very strong team, strong people skills. That's what is important.
Correct.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just take 2 questions from our attendees. I'm planning to set up a badminton academy. I would like to know how the financial understanding goes.
See, if you are planning to set up, one is if you are setting up the infrastructure itself, okay? That is the question. Of course, that is you need some capital, right? You'll. I'm just assuming you'll need a couple of say 1 CR, 2 CR to set up. If that is what you are planning to do, right? Infrastructure, right? So that is one. Now, if you're like what we do, we don't invest in infrastructure. We just invest in coaching, right? We provide the service. We don't give the the hardware, we give the software, right?
Correct.
So if you're planning to do that, it is then your product is coaching, which means your coaches have to be really good and all that.
Right.
But in that, it's a simple match. You're charging fees from a student, like whatever, say example 5,000. Now, all what are your costs? Your costs are equipment, which is shuttles, your rental cost for the venue, your salaries, right? So there are these 3-4 cost heads which you have. And as I said, like when you work this out, you will know that your break even will come in 25 students, depending on what fees you charge,
Right.
25 is your break even, the moment you make 30, the percentage.
Right.
So I think it's not so tough to figure out. I think the tougher part in this is how do you maintain a good level of coaching? How do you ensure your coaches, the standard doesn't dip down, there is a structured way a student can see progress. I think that is that is what eventually will lead to business.
Correct.
So if your product or your service is getting stronger, the automatic result will be the business coming in, other coming in.
So for just one last question, for anyone who's a sports enthusiast, do you recommend shifting into the sporting world right after getting an MBA, or should one work in the corporate world and gain some experience? I'm a national medalist in the 100-meter hurdles, and I wish to work in the field of athletics. So this is
no, good question. It's exactly what so in my case, I went into corporate world and for 2 reasons. One is I wanted to learn, see when you're hardcore into like companies like Reliance or Johnson & Johnson, I mean, they acknowledge the fact that I'm a badminton player, but otherwise I had to just work like anyone else, so that was an advantage where I was just treated like any other employee, there's done your quotas in the past.
Yeah.
So that will really sharpen, in my case, at that time, there was no opportunities in badminton, so anyway, I could not get into it that time. Now, for this particular question, it is always good to get into hardcore corporate world because you will only get better. But suppose there is an opportunity there, it's ready. Okay, say in athletics, there is an opportunity. It doesn't mean you let go of that opportunity. Then you work 3-4 years in corporate.
Right.
So it depends on what kind of an opportunity is there, and depending on the merit of that, I would accordingly decide.
Okay. All right. So this is all we have for today. So before we wrap up, I would like to thank all of you attendees and our speaker, Vijay Lansi. Thank you so much. This is Kalyani Majumdar from IMS Future You, wishing you a great weekend. Stay home and stay safe. Good day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.